On this episode, we're welcoming Dr. Keenan O'Young, who's a chiropractor with us at Totum. We're going to be talking about foot function and its effect on performance, potential for injury development, and we're going to challenge you with 4 different exercises for you to try at home. Welcome to the Totum Wellness Podcast, Keenan. Great to have you here. I got to say, right out of the gate, a little disappointed you didn't walk in here with a guitar because we know you for your guitar prowess and singing. So maybe
you were singing along with me that one time. I heard you sing.
I was definitely background.
What were you saying? Closing time.
You both have beautiful voices. Let's put it that way. Hopefully it'll translate into the podcast also sounding beautiful.
That's a great idea for an offshoot podcast.
An offshoot podcast.
Totum sings.
Totum.
A cappella.
Yeah, Totum a cappella. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Like that. Well, we're actually talking about foot function today. And what better segue than talking about playing guitar?
Yeah.
I'm super pumped about this. I'm sure, so you're a practitioner with us, and I'm sure you see this all the time. I see it so often, and I see so many things that could have been prevented if people started taking care of their feet a little bit before they hit their 60s, 70s, and 80s, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And we still make changes in those ages, but I just really think that information about foot function and about how important our feet are and the health of our feet is so critical, and it's not talked about enough. It's not a really sexy, fun topic. What kind of piqued your interest in this topic?
Just because it's not talked about that often. You see it pretty often in the clinic. People have lots of questions about it. They have lots of questions about footwear and how to train their foot. That seems to be missed in the industry for some reason.
I totally agree. And I think sometimes we will see it after the problem has started.
Yeah. Yeah, like other body parts, your shoulder, we have a pretty good understanding. Everybody has kind of a similar understanding of how to deal with it. You treat it, you make it stronger, you rehab it. But when it comes to the foot, doesn't seem to follow the same trajectory somehow.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
And are you seeing specific things related to the foot, like that are lower leg, ankle, or is it all the way up the chain?
A bit of both. Sometimes you see post-ankle surgery, someone fractured their ankle, so they've lost a lot of mobility there. And so it can transfer up the chain. So now they have knee pain because their ankle can't move. So you see that too. You see foot pain itself manifest pretty often. To the hip too, but it's a little bit more complicated because it's higher up the chain. So there's more factors at play once you hit the hip.
Right, because if your foot's not functioning properly, it's a little bit like the wheels of the car. Like, so if your alignment's off, that's going to affect the wear on the tires. That's going to affect how your drive chain works, but it takes a lot of time for those problems to show themselves in other areas. Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah. The foot is, in most athletic activities, your main point of contact to the outside world. So it's kind of the first link in the kinetic chain. And if that link is broken somehow, your foot doesn't absorb the force efficiently, then it kind of bleeds up the chain.
Okay.
Then either your foot can start to break down, or your ankle, or your knee, or even your hip and beyond can start to see some of the effects of that break in the chain.
So let's start with this concept of proper foot function as it relates to high performance athletics, because I feel like that's a really easy thing to understand. If my feet or a foot doesn't function properly, how does it impact a high performance athlete?
Yeah. Not to get too nerdy, but
We like
nerdy. Go for it.
In research, some of the best predictors of speed is what they call rate of force development. So basically, how fast you can aggressively fire your foot and ankle muscles. That and foot strength. So the cross-sectional area of your little feet muscles. How big are they? How strong are they? And the stronger they are, the more or the higher rate of force development you have, the faster you are. And those are all trainable qualities.
If you could pick, let's say 4 things. I know the foot is super complicated, a lot of joints, a lot of bones, a lot of muscles. If you could pick 4 things Tell me what your 4 favorite things are to make an awesome foot.
The first one is probably dexterity of your foot. Like, can you raise your big toe without raising your small toes?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And vice versa, which sounds easy, but if you actually try and do it, for most people, they're just kind of staring at their toe, hoping
true.
it's
It's
going to
true.
do something. But if you can't do that, you don't have control over your foot. If you weren't able to do that with your hand, most people would be worried. Why can't I do this?
That's such a good point.
So yeah, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Raise the big toe, raise the small toes. Can you spread your toes? Can you squeeze them together?
And when you say
Love this. I'm
spread
doing
your
it all.
toes, it's probably not lifting them at the same time. It's just like making them go wider
Yeah.
on the same plane
Yeah. Abducting
versus
your
lifting
toes.
them upwards. Because
Yeah.
when I try to do it, the natural is I try to spread them apart, but then I lift my toes up as well, which is not really the idea. Is that right?
So your body will find funny ways to do the movement if you can't truly do it. It'll just find a compensation. And that's one of them.
I also see when I ask people to spread their toes, they can spread the lateral 4 toes and their baby toe can
Yeah.
spread, but not their big toe.
Yeah.
They can't move it. They can't abduct it.
Yeah.
And I see this even in young people as well, that they have lost the function. And I explain to them, I say, look, there is a muscle that abducts your great toe. And you just have to get it working again.
For sure. Of all the toes, the big toe is probably the most important joint of the toes. And it's the one that seems to be most affected in practice too. You get big toe arthritis, you get pain with extension. That can limit your function, can limit how fast you are. Even walking, if it's bad enough.
Yeah.
You see that quite a bit.
Can't toe off.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, can you articulate your toes? So can you lift your big toe without the other ones? Can you lift the other ones?
So just on that, the other one. So I'm lifting my big toe and then all 4 of my small toes, but keep my big toe down.
Yeah. Can you isolate the big toe?
Right. It's not isolating individual small toes.
Well, that would be nice too, right?
Some people can surprisingly do that. Some people can do like a piano key type situation.
With practice, I bet you can.
Write your name.
I bet Keenan can do all this.
I see our producer Ryan over there is trying to write his name with his foot.
Okay. What else?
Short foot is probably the other one, which is referenced a lot in the research, which is essentially doming your foot. So not rolling onto the edges of your foot, but you're increasing the height of your arch without curling your toes.
Right. So you're not grabbing with your toes. The bottom of your toes stay flat to the floor.
Yeah.
And you're just sort of drawing them towards your heel.
Yeah.
And again, when I try to do this, as I'm trying to do this within my shoe right now, which is probably not the best place to do it anyway, like right away, it's grabbing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to grab.
Yeah, exactly. Another compensation that is pretty normal that happens if you can't raise the arch, you'll find another way to try and do it.
Move the ankle.
Yeah, you'll kind of pronate, supinate the foot.
Pronate, supinate. I love this exercise so much. Short foot. You can look it up. You can see videos of it.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of different ways to do it. These are all things that I work on with the athletes that I train. I'm so happy that you're talking about this. And I also see some people who are extremely collapsed in there or pronated, and then they actually can't even really begin to feel that yet. Right. So I'm
doing short foot, you mean?
Yeah. Because they're so far inverted the other way. And I think that this is such an interesting thing with those people. I've had them like just kind of roll on a tennis ball or something just to start to get the idea of what does my arch feel like before we say, okay, now lift it up. Dome it. Right.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that needs to happen more.
Yeah.
Tons of people aren't even aware that their feet are in these shapes. Okay, short foot. Anything else?
Short foot. Another one is simply walking barefoot. which can be a workout for some people. If some people are used to being in very padded shoes, very supportive shoes, it can kind of act like a brace that forces your foot to work less hard. So then you get deconditioned, you get atrophy. And so you see this sometimes when people go on vacation, they're used to padded shoes. All of a sudden they switch to a flip-flop, or they're walking on the
Right.
sand on the beach.
On the beach.
And it's a lot of stress on their foot that they're not used to. And then all of a sudden you have foot pain.
They come home with an injury
Yeah.
from their vacation.
That happened to
Happens all
one
the
of
time.
ours.
Oh, yeah.
The exact scenario. I had no problem with my feet whatsoever. We go to Florida for a week or something like that, and plantar fasciitis for the next 6 months. Like, no, I'm not, and I'm not joking. It was
Thank God we're
that
doing this
fast.
podcast.
yeah,
Right?
it's brutal.
And I didn't pay attention to it at the time, and now have much more interest and understanding of how important proper foot function.
I
Yeah.
had a patient had exactly that happen last week. Went to Florida. We're in the season where everybody's trying to get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
And came back and had plantar fascia issues after being on the beach.
Yeah.
Do you have, with the people that you work with on the gym floor? Because I know in your practice, obviously as a chiropractor, you're in a clinic room often, but you are on the floor a lot doing exercise. Do you have your clients work barefoot or sock foot when they're doing their stuff in the gym?
When I'm doing foot specific stuff, they're definitely in their sock or barefoot. But otherwise, they're mostly in their shoes.
Okay.
You can train barefoot, but it takes. I wouldn't start there.
Right.
You'd want to progress to that point, just because it's such a new stimulus. If you're squatting with a bunch of weight and you're barefoot, it's quite different than
Mhm.
With
than
your
squatting,
support of your
yeah.
shoes and the arch support.
yeah.
And you would identify to someone that basically, so you're saying, can you be barefoot is a sign that your feet are doing okay, potentially, that you are able to walk around without footwear,
Mhm.
probably in your house, and you're not in pain.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to? Is that like, can you be barefoot? Is that what you're
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
referring to?
And even just using it as a training stimulus. So some people are told not to walk barefoot at all.
Mhm.
And so they're in Birkenstocks at home. They're always in some kind of footwear. Those people's feet are especially deconditioned. So even with them, walking like 5 minutes at home barefoot can be enough of a training stimulus to get things kickstarted. But you want to, it's kind of a case by case basis. You don't want them to walk like an hour barefoot because they can strain something
Right.
for those people.
That makes sense. Dosage is being reasonable
Yeah.
with and smart about it.
Yep.
You remember when those Vibram shoes came
Yeah.
out?
Yeah, big time.
And all of a sudden people bought them. We even saw lots of people buying them for their kids and
Mhm.
sending their kids to school essentially barefoot
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
You're at school for what,
Yeah, for
6
sure.
hours. And you went from being in running shoes to then 6 hours in the no support shoes.
Yeah.
And everyone injured their feet and
Yeah.
people were running all over the place and injuring their feet.
Yeah.
We're saying, do not do that.
Yeah, do not do that. The shoes themselves aren't harmful necessarily. It's just that the transition from a very padded shoe to all of a sudden this very minimalist shoe is a tough transition. You're going from 0 to 100 without any kind of training to do it.
Exactly.
So most people's feet aren't prepared for that sort of thing.
If people think about, I'm going to run a marathon,
Mhm.
they don't just tomorrow decide to go run
Yeah.
26.2 miles, right?
Yeah.
Like they know that they have to train into it.
Yeah.
But for something like this, for whatever reason, they don't think that, okay, well, I'm going to walk all day. Well, that
Yeah.
is like walking a marathon. Like
Yeah.
you are on your feet for hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
It's way overload.
Yeah.
For that sort. I think that's what you're saying, right? It's just
Yeah.
too much too soon.
Yeah, the foot is just like any other body part. It has muscles, it has ligaments, it has tissue. We kind of just view the foot as this one unit, this blob
Mhm.
that doesn't do what other body parts do, but it does.
Right.
And so for some people, walking can be a training stimulus, barefoot.
Barefoot. And you said like about 5 minutes is a good place to start.
To start, yeah. If
you're the person that is used to wearing the Birkenstocks, I've referred tons of my patients to this recovery footwear, you know, like the UFUs and all the various things because they have plantar fasciitis and we're trying to get the inflammation under control so that we can start to strengthen the foot. And I like this 5 minutes. I'm curious, are you good barefoot in many situations? Are your feet awesome?
They're not awesome. I have pretty big bunions.
Interesting.
Especially on my left side. I remember as a kid training for tennis, my dad was always on my case about footwork, which would piss me off, like any kid. So he took me to this yoga instructor who she was the only one that prescribed me any kind of foot exercises of all the people that I saw, which I never did. I never did the exercises, but now I do.
Sure.
Yeah, you were playing tennis at a very high level. And were your feet in pain?
No, they weren't really in pain. Tennis shoes are pretty padded. Okay. I would say back then especially, it wasn't super comfortable for me to walk barefoot.
Got it.
Especially with the bunions, especially because my big toe didn't have great extension. So I'm finding weird ways to make up for that.
Right. You're compensating.
Yeah. But now I've been working on it a ton.
And now it's better.
No, it's much better. Yeah.
I had the same thing after I was training with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. 3 years of that training, and you can picture what it's like. You're in point shoes and you spend every hour of the day with your feet turned out. And then you start to, your foot naturally compensates. I think this is an interesting point is that feet are amazing in how they will compensate to keep you upright and keep you balanced. So then what happens is the toes go in one direction and the midfoot goes in the other direction to keep you balanced when you're walking. And then you end up with a bunion. And then I had to do the same thing. This would be around 1990s. And I had to do the same thing is train the bunion back the other way, which I was able to do and get the function back.
Cool.
And I think it's only because I only had a limited period of time in the point shoes. And then I went, oh no, this is a problem. And then I trained it back the other way. But some people go for years, women's footwear for years that squishes your toes together into like a pointy shape will create a bunion, essentially on most people. And then it's figuring out how to get around that.
I don't want to get too off topic. Have you read the book Born to Run?
I know about the book. Is this the barefoot one?
Yeah. So the author follows this indigenous tribe in Mexico.
That's right.
Yes, we've read it. Yes.
And
long time ago, though.
And anyways, it's just a cool story on what the feet are capable of.
And what they did for literally hundreds of years. Because for most of human existence, there were no shoes.
No shoes.
Yeah. So we weren't evolved to have shoes. They're known to run like 200 miles without stopping in sandals. And they're born to run. Like they are, as kids, running around barefoot. They're not using the normal footwear that we use over here. And they don't seem to have the same rates of injuries or the same types of injuries that we have. Again, not that you should go around running barefoot all of a sudden.
200 miles.
Well, it's interesting with Stacey's comment about the ballet because she was a figure skater, did some dance, didn't do any of either one of those for a while.
Yeah.
And then goes into this heavy dosage of these exercises that her feet couldn't handle. And plus, the actual footwear was terrible as well.
Yeah.
Point shoes are not really designed to make your feet in good shape. The important point of that, though, is your feet are adaptable. And that's what I found very exciting in a way, because now when I'm seeing bunions come in to my practice, as I'm sure you are, you've had them, I've had them, and then we can say to our patients with confidence, you can change this.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of dedicated work.
Yeah.
Would you say with yours, so the one thing with the bunion, so the toes moving over, we lose flexion as well
Yeah.
on that. Would you say that you've gotten a lot of that back? What percentage are you at?
I've gotten quite a bit of the extension back. Percentage, probably like 25%, 30% more flexion.
Great.
Extension.
Great.
It used to be pretty painful for me to toe off, especially
Yeah.
barefoot.
For sure.
If I was doing a lunge barefoot, the back foot that was toeing off was quite painful. And so I would have to roll onto my smaller toes to do it. But now I don't have to do that.
That's great.
And that's because you have better strength, better mobility in that big toe joint.
Yeah, I specifically trained that big toe joint. Not very exciting, but it definitely translates into better performance.
And what was the timeline that you would say, like give us an idea? So how often did you work on it and how long did it take to get it back into good shape?
I kind of worked on it obsessively more than the average person would. But probably around 3-4 weeks, you can see some decent change in the mobility of that big toe. Similar to how you'd see strength changes in any other exercise.
Right. And any other body part.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And just for clarity, for people who are listening that may not know what that toe extension is, that is fundamentally like lifting it off the floor if you're flat-footed on the floor.
Yeah.
And flexion would be trying to grab,
exactly.
curling him under.
Yeah.
But that's flexion and it lifting off is extension.
Yeah. So maybe when I was a bit younger, I could only lift my toe, or I could only pin my toe up this high before it started to get painful. But now maybe I'm up here before I start to feel
centimeter up to now, an inch and a bit.
Yeah. Maybe more. I haven't really measured it, but you definitely feel it when you're moving.
And it's such an important thing. It's something that I test on every patient. And I think it's something that everyone could do at home. It's a really interesting test to do, is to grab your toes on one foot and see how far you can pull them back towards you without moving your foot. And then grab your toes on the other foot and see if it's equal.
Yeah.
Because if it's not equal, you're going to have changes in your gait.
Mm-hmm.
And as you talked about before, the most common compensation is that you're going to turn the foot that doesn't work as well, you're going to turn it out a little bit to cheat it.
Yeah.
And so then you're going to see changes in your knee and in your hip because you've turned it out and you've shifted off balance slightly. It's a great test that everyone can do at home and I think should do at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
So just to illustrate this whole point and why I'm so interested in it, it's my personal experience. So I broke my right ankle about 20 years ago playing basketball, recovered, but did zero rehab other than getting my balance back and, calf raises and that sort of thing. And then Stacy noticed, this was probably 6-7 years ago, that my right toe was starting to develop this bunion, right big toe. 2 years ago, I hurt the outside of my foot playing football with one of our kids. But
I remember
it was like
that,
a crack. It was like I was positive it was broken. It wasn't broken. But what had happened, and I think, and this is sort of why I'm asking this question, if this is a proper logic here, is broke my ankle. I had reduced ankle mobility as a result. And I know I could see that there was reduced mobility.
Yeah.
I developed this thing, but all the muscles on the outside of my lower leg all basically atrophied and stopped working properly. But I didn't know that. I didn't feel that.
Right.
I could still do all the stuff that I was doing before. And then I had this incident with this big crack. And it was basically now still, I'm not back to normal. It's been a 2-year journey just to get here. I'm about 90% now. Is that sort of what happens when foot function goes bad?
It can, yeah. And it's really tied to the ankle. Especially dorsiflexion. So the ability to bring your knee over top of your toe. If that's limited, then it can be a risk factor for a number of injuries.
Right. So if you have limited dorsiflexion, that's when if your foot is flat on the ground, you're lifting your foot off. So that's dorsiflexion, which if you're squatting and that's limited side to side, then your heel's going to, as you squat lower on one side, your heel's going to pop off the ground because you don't have the mobility.
Yeah, or your back will round.
Super common.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that they have a difference side to side. Probably most of us have some, once you hit a certain age and you've had a certain number of injuries, you generally have something going on with one ankle or the other because it's such a common injury.
Yeah.
Or when you were younger, you rolled your ankle.
Yeah.
Same ankle a whole bunch of times.
Do anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that be some of the most common issues that you see in your clinical practice with feet? What are the most common?
It's got to be plantar fasciitis or strains of the tissue at the bottom of the foot, and stuff like Achilles tendinopathies is the other one. Yeah, which are mainly boils down to overloading. So if your foot can't absorb the stress efficiently, then your foot will break down or something up the chain can break down. And lack of dorsiflexion is a risk factor for both those things, actually, plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendinopathies.
Oh, that's interesting.
That makes sense.
Yeah. What
would your first line of approach be to resolve that for someone?
Come to Totum Life Science.
Of course. So they're coming to see you.
Yeah.
That's a given because you're the expert. And you look and you see plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
And let's just kind of go through a scenario. So we see plantar fasciitis, that side is limited in their ankle mobility. And it's also limited in their great toe mobility. What are you doing for them?
You assess them, and then you take steps to regain some of that mobility. The big toe, and the other thing you said was the ankle?
Yeah.
Yeah. If they have a small tear or something, you probably want to take care of that first. Start to rehab that, start to direct the healing process of the torn tissue. I would say that is number one, so that they can function better without pain. And then you can start to hit the other things, the mobility deficits, the big toe, the ankle, up to the knee, perhaps, if they have limitations there too.
Right.
And what about, back to plantar fasciitis. So that's the underside of your arch in general, but could be underneath your toes as well. Is this, every time you take a step, it's painful.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in the morning, it's the first 5 minutes and it's just feels really bad. And then it kind of resolves itself, but it's there.
Yeah.
Right. So and if it's more chronic, is the approach the same?
Approach is generally the same. It just might take a little bit longer if it's a chronic issue, because all these adaptations have now happened that you have to reverse, which doesn't happen as if it's fresh injury. You can kind of get in front of it, and it can sort itself out a little bit faster normally.
Why don't we talk about your favorite exercises for your feet that would help us prevent this situation from ever happening?
Yeah, going back to what we talked about earlier, the first step is just gain control of your foot. So make sure that your individual toes can, maybe not individual, but at least big toe and small toes can move independently of each other, at the very least. And then it's about building strength. So doing your short foot exercises, which is basically training the core of your foot. Making sure your toes are mobile, so you have a decent amount of extension. Like, can your toe bend back a decent amount without pain? And then also strengthen the ankle muscles. So your Achilles, your soleus, your gastrocs, all of those things to prevent these types of injuries. Basically, you want your foot to be able to deal with the stress that you're asking it to handle. And if it can't because it's too weak, then that's where injuries occur.
Well, I think that we see this a lot. This is my last point on this is with population 65 and older who have not had any or paid any attention to this foot stuff. All the muscles of the foot and lower leg are really weak. And then what happens to their gait or their walking style
and balance
is everything starts to get shorter and shorter and shorter. So if you're not taking as big a step, well, then your glutes aren't working as hard, so they get weaker, and it's just this progressive thing until all of a sudden you're walking like an older person shuffle, which is not healthy. And I think about this with respect to travel, and I talk about this a lot. Like you want to maintain all that capacity that's possible, and with a little bit of strength and power of the foot, ankle, lower leg, like you get to continue doing all that. But in the absence of it, that's why I feel like on the long term, it's almost one of the most important areas that people should be paying attention to from 60 up.
Yeah, I agree.
And we would look at it when you talk about this strengthening, same as we would strengthen any other tissue. So maybe you're not doing it every single day, but maybe you're having 3 good sessions a week where you're actually really doing the work, and don't be afraid that your foot might cramp when you
pretty common.
first start doing it because it's not used to this. And we start out slowly and we progress gradually, but you have to do it consistently and regularly or you're not going to see results, just like any other training. Consult a professional so that you're doing the exercises correctly.
Yeah, for sure. Depends what stage you're at. If you're kind of stuck in the dexterity stage, then you can do it however many times you want. You can't really overdo that one. At first, you might have to cheat even. You might have to hold down the small toes to try and get the big toe up, just so that your brain understands how to do it.
That's a good point.
And vice versa. Hold the big toe down, try to get the small toes up. I know it's not exciting at all.
Good party trick, though.
It's a great party trick. It could become a new social experiment for all of us. Everybody, shoes
next
and
totem
socks
gathering
off. Yeah, let's go for this. My last question for you is around footwear. It's changed dramatically in the last few years. Now we have carbon inserts in both running shoes, in competitive footwear. We have these support systems. So, for example, our youngest has one foot that the arch is collapsed in a little bit. And we tell him to do his exercises and he ignores us, like all 17-year-old teenagers tend to do with their parents. So the last pair of skates, he has very fancy skates that are very expensive. The last pair, they put in a kind of a super foot insert that holds his arch up. And I was fascinated to see that because I was fascinated that the person fitting his skates, who's very knowledgeable, was able to pick up, he actually needs this arch lifted in his footwear.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? What should we be looking for? What should we be doing with this whole footwear challenge?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic and a highly debated one. In research, flat feet alone isn't a huge deal. It's not a great predictor of how the foot moves or how it operates during movement. So it's more important that you have strength in the foot, that you have mobility in the ankle, for example, rather than what your foot looks like when it's stationary. Certain inserts I would use basically as a brace. If someone is in a lot of pain, they can't walk without pain, then 100% put something in your shoe to make it comfortable so that it heals as well.
And so you can keep walking.
But at the same time, train the foot. Don't just rely on the insert and do nothing else with the foot, because it can get weaker if you become too reliant on it. If you're in it too long term and you don't think about strengthening the foot.
That's great, yeah. And if you only use the brace, then the foot doesn't have a chance to learn it itself.
Yeah, you're kind of asking the foot to forget how to use itself. And that's where you run into those situations on vacation. All of a sudden you're barefoot and then it's too much.
Right.
Even though it shouldn't be normally. Under normal circumstances, humans should be able to walk barefoot without getting plantar fasciitis.
And very importantly too, the most fashionable footwear doesn't always have the nicest support. And if you want to be wearing that and not be in pain, you better get your feet strong.
Yeah.
I feel like this has been a real foundational conversation.
It's a good one.
I get it. Yeah, very good one.
Yeah, the foot's the foundation.
Such an important topic to talk about.
By the way, Keenan, thank you so much for
coming
in today. We've never
Keenan.
ended a podcast singing Closing time.
I'm blanking on the lyrics. Too nervous now.
That was great. To be continued.
Yeah.
With
definitely.
closing time.
Thanks for listening to the Totum Wellness Podcast. Please follow us on Apple, Google, or Spotify and leave a 5-star review and comment. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel and please spread the word to family and friends.